The APF and WRL regular seasons have concluded. We have the playoff pictures for each of those leagues as well, and the D2F league and team draft is over. All of this and more, 20 seconds. Hey fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsor of Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for all your athletic communication needs. I saw some messages coming up already. Let's see, Jason out there giving me a shout out for the XFL. Of course, now it's not going to show up for whatever reason, probably because I'm not on the right screen for it yet. Let me get switched over to that. And there we go, the XFL. There's also our agenda for the night. I see Hanley's out there with us as well. Hanley, how are you? So, yeah, I got the, Hanley says arena checking in here. Jason also giving a shout out to the old XFL Rod Smart. He hate me. Ended up playing for the Eagles for a couple of years, I believe, after the original XFL ended. Arena checking in here. Furby giving a yell out to the XFL as well. He is in the XFL as the Las Vegas Outlaws, I believe it is. Furby, is that what it is? And I got a couple more people that are coming up. I want to make sure that I get you up on the screen and then say hello to everybody. Tracy, how are you? Erica, how are you? All right, we got everybody in there for the night. Let's get this show started. So there is our agenda. We're going to talk about the APFL Week 13 and what the playoffs look like as we're going into Week 14 tonight, actually, in about 50 minutes for kickoff. Then we're going to talk about through each one of the WRL regions, the Loch Ness, the Red Dragons, the Cerberus, and the Krakens. And then Jason says, you're going to be in Las Vegas this weekend. Is that for work? Or you just going? I'm not sure who the XOMEGAD is. I'm here and I'm not late. But I do see Bob is out there. Bob, what's up with you? Bob ended up being our 24th pick in the D2F. And after he chose the LA Extreme, which was the original XFL's champion at the big game at the end, he ended up switching it the next day to the DC Defenders. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. I didn't think we're in the XFL tonight was going to cause this much of a stir. Oh, yeah, Sean, I don't know why it's showing up that way either. That's weird. I figured it was you, but I wanted to make sure. Oh, okay, so you're going for work, Jason. You've got a show out there tonight, or this weekend. This week? Next week? This weekend. Are you guys flying out? Is the boss flying you, or are you guys getting on a regular plane? You driving it? Yeah. All right, let's get this going. Let's talk about the APFL. Let's get this first game up on the screen. I actually got a phone call about this earlier today, wondering how Pittsburgh got in over the New York Wings and the Las Vegas Marauders. Well, here is how that went down. Ended up coming down to the strength of victory for the 7th seed in the AFC. So Pittsburgh ends up beating Cincinnati 63-59. This also ends up being our ugly win of the week. The two of them combining for just 122.82 points. But the Forge were able to hold on, and they end up getting the 7th seed with their 7-6 record, which did tie them with the New York Wings and the Las Vegas Marauders. There was a three-way tiebreaker that needed to be figured out. Las Vegas was eliminated because of their conference record being one game behind both Pittsburgh and New York, and then Pittsburgh ended up beating New York on a strength of victory. So for those of you that don't know what strength of victory is, basically what we have to do is we have to put together the combined record of all of the teams that we've beaten. So in our case, and I say our because I'm the New York Wings, Pittsburgh, New York, and Las Vegas Marauders, we all finished 7-6. Like I said, first tiebreaker eliminated Las Vegas, so they were out based on conference record. So then we had to go by strength of victory, which takes the 7 games that Pitt and I both won, and we do a combined record of those 7 teams that we beat, and whoever ends up with a better record because they played the better opponents ends up going in. And I think it's like the 5th or 6th tiebreaker when you look at the NFL tiebreaker rules, which is what we use to break the ties in the APFL because this is our NFL emulation league. So Pittsburgh gets in. We had another great game, but over on the NFC side, and this happened to do with the NFC South. So the championship race ended because Carolina ended up beating New Orleans. So with the Angels losing to Carolina, and you see the score there, 83-81, this actually ended up being our closest game of the week as well. Because New Orleans lost and Atlanta ended up winning, Atlanta ended up sneaking in and taking the NFC South. And as you can see here shortly, because they are the division winner, they are going into the playoffs with the number 4 seed. They ended up beating the Tampa Bay Pirates. Final score there was 87-68. Another great game over in the NFC side. Got to give a shout out to the Green Bay Cheeseheads, who put up 141 plus points for the second week in a row on the way to beating Chicago. Final score there 141-97. The Green Bay Cheeseheads are the 2023 champions. They're looking very good as we are approaching this playoff run. And then we have one game here that we want to mention over in the AFC side because Buffalo survived Miami. Final score there was 109-106. It was just a margin of 3.68 points. Buffalo winning the AFC East with a final record of 10-3. Miami falls to 8-5. Both get in the playoffs, though. Buffalo gets in as the 3 seed. Miami gets in as the 6 seed. Pretty rough, though, when you put up 106 points and still take the loss. So now we're going to talk about the playoffs. And as Jason said at the beginning of the show, playoffs? What are you talking about, playoffs? So here is your playoff picture. We're going to start on the AFC side, and we're going to work from the bottom up. So we've got the number 7 Pittsburgh Forge playing the number 2 Jacksonville Prowlers. Prowlers own a 2-0 lifetime record against the Forge, which include victories in both the regular and playoffs of the 2024 season. Right now, Pittsburgh just barely squeezed into the playoffs. Jacksonville finished 10-3, kind of favoring Jacksonville right now. Step up a little bit, and we just got done talking about Buffalo and Miami playing. Well, they are playing for the second week in a row. This is like the ultimate divisional rivalry matchup right here. But Miami does, in fact, hold the 5-3 regular season record over Buffalo and a 1-0 playoff advantage from their head-to-head matchup in 2023. This season, they went 1-1, as we just mentioned. Buffalo ended up beating Miami this week. So Miami has the precedent. They've gotten more wins against each other in this, but Buffalo was the higher seed, so we'll have to see how that one plays out. And then in the 5-4 game on the AFC side, Baltimore won the only previous meeting. This was back in 2024 regular season meeting where Baltimore ended up winning that game at 93-92. Colts finished the season at 9-4, but Baltimore ended up winning their division at 8-5. That's why Baltimore gets the slightly better seed. And then as you can see, Denver has the first round bye as they ended up going 12-1 this year. The only team to take just one loss, I believe. I can't remember on the Mammoth side. Furby, did you only take one loss as well? And I feel like I'm missing a whole lot over here. Let me see. Jason says he's going for work. Hanley's talking about Dallas and Detroit getting ready to kick off. You are flying. Oh, yeah, you have to make sure you get your ID, TSA. So, Hanley, I think Jason's probably going to tell you, I think that's based on state by state for that verification of the ID. I know Ohio started it quite a while ago. The enhanced license thing Ohio started a couple years ago is supposed to help you out with all of that stuff. So, All right, let's get on this NFC side. Let's talk about starting at the bottom and working up, Arizona versus Green Bay. So Green Bay dominated the only previous meeting between these two. The final score there was 91-53. This was in 2023. 38-point margin of victory. Like we said a little bit ago, Cheeseheads have scored 141 points in back-to-back weeks. Arizona just squeaked in with the 8-5 record as the final seed. Okay, so you did end up having 2 losses, but you did give Denver their 1 loss. That's absolutely correct. Let's slide up the bracket there on the right-hand side. We're going to talk about Washington at Seattle. Seattle owns a 2-0 record against Washington, including a first-round playoff victory in 2022 when Seattle went on to win that first year's APFL Bowl. Seattle also won their 2024 regular season meeting against Washington, where they scored 109-77. The score was 109-77. And then at the top of the bracket there, we've got Detroit at Atlanta. Detroit has won their only previous meeting. Score there was 83-61. This was in week 9 of 2024. Pride finished 10-3, which would have got them winning the division in a lot of the other divisions, but he had Green Bay ahead of him. So even though Atlanta has the better seed, they finished 7-6. They won their division, but the Pride have the better record at 10-3 versus Atlanta's 7-6. Atlanta getting in because of New Orleans losing that game to Carolina. And that takes care of our APFL news. Let me go over and check, see what else you guys are over here talking about. Travel. Travel? You want to talk about travel? You guys keep talking about that. All right, let's move on to the WRL. We're going to start off with the Loch Ness region. Matt, I'm glad you're out there. We're going to talk about you again. All right, so the Ohio River Monsters already sitting at top of the WRL with the best power ranking. They cemented that #1 power ranking with a win. Ended up final score there over the Wagyu, 184-119. Final exclamation point on a really good season. Not only does he get a first round bye in the NFC side of the APFL, he's going to get a first round bye in the Tier 1 playoffs in the WRL as well. Let's see. Let's move on to the Red Dragons region. So the Red Dragons region had the closest matchup of the entire WRL this week. It was a surprise win, actually, with the Wildcats taking out Turd Ferguson. Final score there was 157-153. Overall final point margin of victory was 3.78 points. Turd Ferguson still ends the season comfortably, though. They are inside the Tier 1 field of the playoffs, and we will be talking about those after we get through all of the rest of these regions in the APFL. And next up is the Cerberus region. We have 2 games to highlight there for you. Yeah, I agree, Hanley. Hanley says we need to get some sound with those videos. So, or is that Jason that said that? Jason said that. So one of them does have sound. The Krakens, which we haven't hit yet. It's the last one, but I eliminated the sound on it because I didn't want just one of them to have sound and not all of them. And I was working on trying to get the Dragons to have like the flapping of the wings sound, but I couldn't get it to match up with the video there well. So I just decided to take them out. However, it sounds like a very good project for us to work on in the offseason if you want to, Jason. All right, so in the Cerberus region, like we said, we had 2 games to highlight here. So the headline moment of Week 13 came when the Maniacs, who were long presumed to be the favorite to secure the regional bye, were knocked off by the Coolidge Scorpions. Final score 153-122. The loss ended any hopes of a top seed and cracked open the door for the Monarchs. And the Monarchs marched right through it. They needed a win to clinch the Cerberus region first round bye, and the Monarchs did it, handled business, ended up beating the Trolley Potters 113-95. both teams having a really rough week. I know that the Monarchs took 2 zeros on his team and was still able to knock off the Charlie Potters. So it was a season-long chase. Monarchs kept going after the Maniacs, thinking it wasn't going to be possible. In fact, at one point, between the Charlie Potters and the Gridiron Grinders, didn't even know if the Monarchs were going to make it in the Tier 1 playoffs. But here they are now with a first-round bye. Jason says, for sure, send me the videos. You know I'm on it, man. I'll send you anything you want to work on for me. I appreciate you. All right, let's talk about this Kraken's region. So the Kraken's region ended up having a heavyweight game that had postseason consequences to it. So the last 2 WRL world champions, Ted's Lasso won it last year, Lunatics won it the year before that. They were playing for a Tier 1 berth. The winner of this game was going to go to Tier 1 playoffs, while the loser of this ends up going to the Tier 2. Ted's Lasso ends up getting that win. Final score there was 152 to 137. So let's look at these end of season power rankings. Not that they really matter much right now. Let me see if I can get that other thing off of there. I guess I can't. I don't know where my black box is at. Of course, I can't find something whenever I need it. There we go. Let me cover that up so we don't have that in the background. Not that it really matters now, because now we are into the playoff, but I'm sure for those looking to want to know where they stood at the end of the regular season, here is your top 25 out of 48 teams. Like we said, the Ohio River Monsters ended up with the #1 spot. Almost a perfect power ranking. This might be the first year since we introduced the power rankings that we did not have a perfect power ranking by season's end. Him having to share the record with the Unicorn Legends kept him 0.003 points away from having that perfect power ranking. So now I want to talk about the WRL playoffs. So let me see if I can get this off. I want to talk about the WRL playoffs and how we got there and what the whole idea behind these were. And then I've got 3 images for you, which is actually the playoff brackets for each one of the tiers for the WRL playoffs, which I'm getting ready to talk about. I don't want to show it quite yet, though. Let me see if I can explain it to everybody first, and then I'll show the first graphic. So the idea this year was we had the 4 regions. Each region had 3 divisions. Each division had 4 teams in it, so 12 teams per each one of the regions, 4 teams per each division. The idea was the first place team in each division was going to play in the Tier 1 playoffs. That was going to put on a 12-team ladder with 4 teams getting byes. The 4 teams that are getting byes was the top team of the 3 division winners when you broke the ties, and the ties were record and then total points. So whoever had the better record of those 3 division winning teams and had the most points gets a first round bye in the Tier 1 playoffs. The same thing applies for Tier 2 and Tier 3. However, we're using the second place teams in each division for Tier 2 and the third place teams for each division for Tier 3. Now, if you ended up finishing at the bottom of your division, you are not in the playoffs. Your season ended. Watch the Dallas-Detroit game tonight for fun and be ready to come back in 2026. So I think that's probably a pretty good lead-in. Jason says, I wonder where the Cavalry came in at, Jay. Well, I don't think you're going to see yourself on the Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 brackets. So I think you know where that means you ended up finishing. So let's look at this Tier 1 bracket first. So as we said, it was the top team from each division, 12 divisions. Each one of the arms of the playoff brackets you see here is a region. So as you can see, we got the Ohio River Monsters up in the upper left-hand corner. That's the Loch Ness region. Unicorn Legends up in the upper right. That is the Red Dragons region. The Monarchs in the bottom left. That is the Cerberus region. And then the Music City Miracles in the bottom right is from the Kraken's region. And the other 2 teams that are playing in the Seed 2 and Seed 3 are also from those same regions for the teams that got the byes. So what's going to happen is The 2 and the 3 will play against each other. Each one of the number 1 seeds end up getting a bye this week, week 14. So again, we are also, Paul says St. Brown is suiting up according to MFL. God, I hope he doesn't get hurt again. I really need him to stay healthy if I'm going to have an opportunity to knock off either the Maniacs or Lucky Ass Ferg next week. Thanks for that information. I appreciate it. So the 2 and the 3 are going to play against each other. The winner of that game is going to end up playing the team that gets the first round bye. So I'm going to show the tier 2 and the tier 3 and kind of let you look at those. And then we're going to talk about the money. And Hanley says, yes, confirmed that he's suiting up. God, that's crazy. That's all right. I think I have him in 1 or 2 other leagues. I sat him, but I also don't have a chance of getting in the playoffs in those other leagues as well, so I'm not too worried about it. So let me show you tier 2 playoffs. So as you can see, the first round buys end up going to E-Thugs, Southern Sirens, Groot, and the Warbirds. Those are your best second seed teams in each one of the divisions. They get the first round bye, and then they are playing the 2 and 3 seeds in the tier 2. And then in the tier 3 playoffs, the teams getting the buys are Totally Turtley, Epidemic Elephants, Charlie Potters, and the Land Sharks. They are getting the first round buys in this upcoming WRL playoffs. So I promised that we were going to go over the payouts for each one of these leagues. So the big money is still with the tier 1 bracket. In fact, in the tier 2 and the tier 3, we are only paying out the winner and the runner-up. Now, if Jason remembers, Jason's got the money bags up there. Jason remembers it was actually he and I during his birthday celebration for him turning 50 last year that we actually put this all together on that dry erase board at your church where we had your party at. So all of this is finally coming around and we're finally getting to see that thing that we put together that night. So you got to love your best friend whenever he's willing to take time during his birthday party to go over FSA stuff with you. So just an awesome dude. All right, so what you're seeing here, let's work from the outside in. The dollar amounts that you're seeing in each one of the brackets is the dollar amount that's going to go to the team that loses in that round. So let's look at the 2 and 3 seed out on the outer edges of each one of those. Whoever loses that game is going to get $60, which is their buy-in back. Chris from the UK had put a thought in our head last year about, if you win your division, you should at least get something. So every single one of the people that are on this bracket in the tier 1 is a division winner. And even if you lose in the first round, you're going to at least get your money back. So that was Chris's idea combined with mine and Jason's idea for the bracket. We just had to get the money right. So the next round, if you are in the regional finals and you lose that, you will get $90. This is 1.5 times your buy-in. If you make it to the semifinals and you lose, you're getting 3 times your buy-in at $180. And then if you are the runner-up, let me see if I got this right. I think I've got this wrong. The math on here is not right, Jason. I don't think we messed anything up. I think that I'm just not saying it right. If you are a runner-up, the bracket's just throwing me off because the world champion up there. If you were the runner-up, you're going to end up getting 9.3 times what your buy-in was at $560. And then if you're the world champion, you're getting $1,000, which was 16.7 times your buy-in. So still looking at this same bracket, imagine this being for tier 2 and tier 3. Like we said, only the winner and the runner-up get money in the tier 2 and tier 3. The champion of the tier 2 is getting $60. They're getting their buy-in back. The runner-up is getting $30, which was half their buy-in. So you basically played all year for just $30. Then if you are the champion of the tier 3, you are getting $30, which was half your buy-in. And then if you were the runner-up in tier 3, you're getting $15 back, which was a quarter of your buy-in. So at least you got a little something back and it didn't cost you the full $60. And that's for runnering up in the tier 3. And I hope that didn't confuse anybody. I hope everybody followed that. All right, before we get to the website updates, which are going to be fairly quick tonight. I know I spent a lot of time on the website updates, but tonight, not a lot. Let's talk about the primetime games. Thursday night football, we've already brought it up a couple of times. Dallas at Detroit. Detroit favored by 3. I would say that if ASB is playing now, that 3-point spread that Detroit is favored by is probably a little bit more. Sunday night football, we got Houston at Kansas City. Kansas City favored by 3.5. And then for Monday night football, we got Philadelphia at the LA Chargers. Philadelphia favored by 2.5. Runnering up, yeah, is that even a word? I've been told a couple of times throughout my journalism career that runnering up is not a word. I'm using it anyways. We're going to say runnering up is a word, and we're going to adopt it as an industry word. How about that? Runnering up is a word. All right. We do have 4 byes this week. Carolina, New York Giants, New England, and San Francisco all on bye. That's good for those people that have like a Christian McCaffrey. New England's defense, if you're playing in a league that still uses team defenses, and you would have had them this week, they are on bye. If you're on bye, you get to dodge that bullet. So let's talk how that leads into the FSA Sunday Ticket for just a second. First game is not till 1 p.m. on Sunday. No international games. I think we're done with all of that on the schedule. So you do not have to get your FSA Sunday Ticket picks in until 1 p.m. But if you haven't got them in yet, make sure you get them in. Don't forget. All right, website updates. Let me see if I can get this to work real quick. I want to show you just a couple of quick things. That's not what you wanted to see. You want to see this instead. All right, website updates. Not a lot of stuff that you're going to see in the foreground. A lot of it was done in the background over the last week, 2 weeks. We had that doubleheader game in week 12 in the WRL. The website, the FSA website, was not ready to handle that yet. So I went through over about a week's time and went through about every single page that I could think of that had any doubleheader implications that you all see on your side, and got all of those working right. And I set it up in such a way that no matter what we do with doubleheaders in future seasons, the code will now handle that. So if we decide that we want to change the doubleheader and it's no longer in week 12, because remember, we randomly did that before the season started. If we want to do the same thing again next year, the website will handle it. If we wanted to do a different doubleheader week for each one of the regions, it will handle it. If we wanted to do a triple header, it will handle it. So all of that stuff that was done in the background that you probably won't even see and won't even know until next year, it's all working. Now on my FSA admin side, there's still some hanging chads out there for the double header, but nothing that's going to affect you all on this side. But the one thing I think I did get updated that you hadn't seen during the last website updates I wanted to show you is this league scoreboard here under scores. You click on league scoreboard. Really? I thought I had logged in just before, and it would still be live enough for this to work. All right, let's try that again. Let's get back on my dashboard. Let's get back into the Monarchs here so I can show you this since we're talking about WRL stuff. Let's go to league scoreboard and show it to you. Before, you would come on this page and it would have 2 columns, be like week 1, week 2, and then underneath week 1 and week 2 would be week 3 and week 4, and you literally had to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page to see the most current week. What I decided to do was kind of borrow something that's on MFL's page and just put the current weeks on there for the scoreboard, and then you have the ability to do any of these hyperlinks that are across the top to go there. So just to kind of give you an example of what that doubleheader week looks like, if you go back to week 12, which is when it will show the 2 games right there at the top for you if you're logged into it, because that's what it does. It always puts your game up at the top. And I don't know if we actually showed this feature, and I can't remember where it's at graphically wise when you click on it right now. This is something that I'm still playing around with. But if you click on this inside the league scoreboard, it will take you to a box score-like page with the final score for your players there. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be the final look of this. This is one of those pages that I'm playing with the aesthetics of right now. But you do have the ability now to click on any of those games that are in League Scoreboard in any week. We can go back to week 2 when I play Jason, actually, and I can click on that game, and it will pull up our game against each other. It'll show what the final score was. It'll show the points for each one of the players, and it'll show the points for each one of the bench players as well. So that wasn't available, I don't think, the last time I did updates either. But I wanted to make sure you all knew that that was a possibility. All right, so let's talk about the FSA Sunday Ticket real quick. We kind of already hit the wave tops on this one. 12 games this Sunday. You don't have to have your lineups in until, or your picks in until 1 o'clock. Here are your standings right now. Your top 10. Jason Norris at the top right now. Bruce Nakamoto in 10th place. And again, we have 12 games this Sunday. Picks do not need to be in before 1 p.m. or they need to be in by 1 p.m. No early games this week. All right, so before we get to the next broadcast, 2 other things that I wanted to talk about. We've kind of hit on it a couple of times tonight with me wearing the XFL stuff and everybody kind of bringing it to the attention. So we could still play each other every week. What are we talking about? Lineup is out. And then St. Brown is in. Okay. Jason, so potentially we could all play each other every week. Explain what you mean there, brother. So XFL, Defunct Dynasties, coming back. We had a vote a couple of weeks ago about which 2 leagues were going to start off our bringing of the Defunct Dynasties back, that we are calling D2F, the Defunct Dynasty Federation, because we're hoping to be able to bring this all the way up to 8 leagues and kind of have a playoff system like we have with the WRL. And the 2 that we came up with, one was the XFL, the other was Arena. This past week we had the league and team selection. What I ended up doing prior to that was I ended up doing a wheel out there on the internet. I got a list of the 24 general managers' names in a row, and then in a list, and then going one down to 24. That general manager picked which league they wanted to play in, whether that was XFL or Arena, and then what team they wanted to have and represent them and their brand. So I mean, we could if we wanted to. But the all play every week thing would actually be pretty easy to figure out if we did it, because it's actually one of the calculations that we use for the power rankings anyway. So we literally would just not even do anything other than nobody plays anybody. There literally would be nobody on the schedule, but everybody would be able to set a lineup. And then after that, we just look at the all play and it would be done for us. And that would be really easy, actually. Not a bad idea. Now that you said that, if we ever go back and do the all play thing again, which I don't know if you remember this or not, 2010, we did that. Everybody played everybody that all season, and then we went to an actual playoff system once we hit that part of the season where everybody played head-to-head at that point. If you go out and look at you know what, Jason, since you're talking about it, let me just bring it up real quick. Website updates. Let's back up for just a second. Let me pull that up since Jason brought that up. Interesting little tidbit in the history of FSA. If you go in here to the all-time records and you go to WRL, if you see any of these teams with a little football next to them, that means that they participated in that 2010 season that I was just talking about, where everybody played everybody. It was all play every week until we got down to the playoffs. So since we're talking about it and Jason brought it up, let's show Jason his Aliens team from that 2010 season. So when you come here to the page and you scroll down to 2010, why is it not showing your 2010 on here? Did you have a different name in 2010? And that's why it's not showing up. All right, let's do mine. Unless all of a sudden, even though the football was there, it is decided that it's not going to work anymore. So I was the Nightbreed back then. So let's see if it's there or not. Okay, it is. We got to figure out why it's not showing up on yours, Jay. So 2010 season, you'll see it look a little bit different than the rest of the weeks because this will tell you what your record was for that week. You got to assume that we had 12 teams and that you're going to get in a record that was 11-0 all the way down to 0-11 each of these 10 weeks. And then basically what it did was color code it. If you finished above 500, you got it in green. If you finished below 500 that week, it turned out in red. But either way, if you wanted to see, I'm pretty sure the View Games works on this one. Okay, it only shows the head-to-head stuff. So this was the year that I ended up playing my dad. It was the year that I should have won, was going to finally get my first championship in the WRL, and ended up losing to him. But it just shows the regular head-to-head games and not everything that's here. But if you're out there, a little piece of history in FSA, and you're out here on the all-time records, anybody that has that little football next to them means they played in that 2010 season, and you can go in and see how they did. So Jason, thank you for bringing that up. Pretty cool. Let me get everything back over here. Oh, you guys don't want to see all that. Let me get that off the screen. All right. Jason says he vaguely remembers. Yeah, it was 15 years ago, and we are getting old. All right. So Defunct Dynasties, the league selection and the team selection is done. Everybody's got their teams. Just wanted to let everybody know that that was complete. We will do a parade of teams once I figure out what the graphics are going to look like, put them all together for everybody. We'll do like we've done for the other Defunct Dynasty Leagues. We'll give a little history of the team that was selected by that individual. We'll show off their branding. I'm not sure what that's doing. We'll show off their branding. We'll talk about it. I don't know if we're going to do that before we do the draft order shows like we used to. I think we did the parade of teams before the draft order shows, or if we're going to do the parade of teams and then the draft order shows come later, days later, weeks later, whatever. We'll figure it out. And then I have one note for the APBL baseball as well. So the plan was to take APBL to 16 teams this year. We started the season or ended the 2025 season with 14 teams. We dropped 2 teams to take us down to 12. We added 4. We are at our 16 that we need for the APBL. It went together so well with the new teams that came on board about which teams that they picked. So we ended up being able to get a even split of 8 teams on the AL, 8 teams on the NL. I've already got the divisions, the leagues and the divisions set. And we already have an idea of what the schedule is going to look like for the APBL, at least the breakdown of how many times you play who, like 3 times in your division, 2 outside your division, all that. We've already got that figured out. In fact, we've had that figured out about 4 years ago when Gerard and I put the idea of this league together, and I'm very excited to present it for a 16-team league. And then if you didn't get in but wanted to get in this year, let me know. We will put you on the waiting list because we are going to extend to 24 teams in 2027, and I know it will fill fast because of how many people that we do have on the wait list right now. So if you want in, make sure you write us. We will get you in the APBL channels on Discord. That way you can see everything that happens in 2026 and get yourself ready for 2027. All right, next broadcast. We will be back next Thursday. The work at Aiken is lightening up for me. We don't have another home game until Tuesday, but I will be at a medical appointment, and we have both this weekend and the following weekend off as the student athletes are playing away both weekends. So there will be lots of time for programming, lots of time for anything else to go on with these leagues. So the next broadcast will be on the 11th of December, a week from today at 7:30 p.m. Thank you for watching the Fanatically Real broadcast, sponsored by Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for all your athletic communication needs. Also, thank you to the Recast, who are the official music of the FSA. If you liked the show, please go out, like, share, subscribe, follow us on all of our social media outlets, and remember, We are Fanatically Real. Everybody have a great rest of your evening. Make sure you watch Thursday Night Football and pray for ASB that he doesn't get hurt.